for joining us for another session of Fireside Chat. I think we're very glad to have the team from Wazir Advisors, one of the India's top strategic advising companies. In fact, in textiles, obviously they just completely stand out, but they're not just textiles, they do textile and retail, food processing, consumer durables, healthcare, education. So obviously they have a lot of expertise and they are doing extremely well, and especially with textile sector doing well now, I'm sure you guys will have many more opportunities. So welcome, gentlemen, to here. We have Mr. Prashant Agarwal. Prashant Agarwal is a partner and co-founder of Wazir Advisors. He is a textile graduate himself and has also got an MBA from IMS Indore. He is in the board of many textile parks, and also, he has done, he's a regular speaker at CII, FICCI, and all these, agencies. And also, I guess he's also a professor, sometimes guest faculty at IIT and IIT Delhi and IIM Ahmedabad, right? So, Prashant, welcome. And we also have Mr. Varun Vaid. Varun Vaid is a business director and again textiles expert. So he heads the textile strategy division with Wazir Advisors. He's also a textile engineer and has an experience of almost 20 years in the textile sector. So welcome, Varun, to this chat. So thank you very much for participating. And we also have Prerna Junjunwala, who's our analyst who covers textile, and all of you know her. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll have a small presentation first. Mr. Agarwal, if you can take that presentation, and then we'll do a Q&A. And so that's how we'll do it. Yeah.
Is this visible to everyone?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yes, Prashant.
Fine. So thanks to Sanjeev ji and BK Securities, and we being consultant, definitely, as Sanjeev ji said, that these are good times for textile industry. A lot of investments, companies are doing good. So our team is also really busy post COVID, and that's a good scenario to be in. At the same time, I love giving input so that somebody gets a clear direction in terms of where industry is moving, and some queries are answered which are kind of which comes through an in-depth understanding of market. And we as Wazir Advisors focus, because this is a textile and apparel industry is a global industry. So we focus not only in India but globally. As of now, our projects are on in India, Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Africa, 2-3 countries in Africa. So there are running projects which are there where we work on strategy, implementation, joint ventures, setting up new projects, re-engineering, so everything. So let me come straight to the point. When Prerna and Sanjeev ji discussed with us, I thought instead of straight away coming to answering your queries, let's understand the global and Indian textile and apparel industry, because otherwise I could have come straight to Indian, but this being a truly global industry, one needs to understand global perspective before really getting into whether whatever the growth we are seeing is transient or it will grow for a longer time. So all of these have to be understood really well. So with this, let me take you through the whole contents. Like first, I'll take you through global textile and apparel trade scenario, market trade, global imports, major trade trends, and key global trends. So we'll have a good global understanding. Then where does India stand in this in comparison to competing countries? And then while this growth is happening, is there a policy thrust from Indian government also? Because world over, you will see everywhere there is a thrust given by government because the kind of employment this industry creates. So they go hand in hand anywhere in the world. So it's not specific to India, but Indian government is giving a good thrust to improve this industry and create investments majorly. So broadly, let's understand few numbers. Where we are saying this industry is almost around $2 trillion is around $1.6 trillion and will be $2 trillion by 2025. So when we say $2 trillion, this I am talking about sales at MRP level in different countries. So Indian garment sales is around $78 billion in domestic market. So similarly in US it's $235 billion. In EU it's 264. China is 181. So together, how much sale is happening? These are the numbers for global market data. Now, while those were the numbers of sales, this is the number of trade in terms of how much fiber, yarn, fabrics, and garments are traded globally. So today, if you see, major important numbers are 2019, and after that, we should understand how the dip happened into 2020 and how it is functioning today. Are people back? So these are some of the slides which will take you through where before COVID, 2019, global trade was $839 billion, out of which garment was the major trade, $482 billion. Where rest are home textiles, yarn, fabrics, and also $839 billion trade is a huge number for any industry to be really bring itself into importance. We expect this trade went down in 2020 instead of 839 to almost around $600 billion. But I will show you certain numbers where things are picking up back to 2019 level, and we expect this continue to grow. And even if we take a CAGR of 3%, it will be a $1 trillion industry trade by 2025. Just see the numbers. We are capturing the numbers on monthly basis. US apparel retail sales, if you see, the third is 2021 numbers, and from March onwards, the US apparel retail sales have surpassed not only 2019, not only 2020, but 2019 also, which shows that not only we have recovered but growing faster. So US, specifically US, the sales, imports, everything has recovered almost fully, and into as it it's in a growth trajectory at a much higher pace. So on year to year, it's almost 66% higher than 2020 and 2% higher than 2009. So this is how, because US is an important market, US and Europe is important market. So a trend which is here will impact Indian or Chinese, all other industries. And if you see, earlier was the growth in sales. Now this is imports. So if you see imports also, the way sales are growing, slowly the imports are also improving. And while definitely it has gone above than 2020, but majorly if we compare by 2019, and if we see May, June, but almost really close in terms of recovery, in terms of import. So whatever India is exporting or China is exporting, Bangladesh, Vietnam, is shown here as imports. So there's a huge recovery which is happening there. And if you see Europe, Europe also, while Europe is slow in terms of recovery, while definitely in terms of 2020, it has recovered, but I think the benchmark is 2019, and still it is catching up on those lines. So Europe is catching up, but little slow. If you see, this is important that what are the impacts, whatever the decisions or trade issues, conflicts which are happening between US and China, it has led to a reduction in the share of China from 30% to almost, you can say, 22%. So first it went down to 24% and then 22%. So while China is going down, so China has gone down by 8%. At the same time, Vietnam has gone up by 3% and Bangladesh has gone up by 2%. So you would see that Vietnam and Bangladesh are taking share of China at this moment, because US companies, they need big quantities, competitive price points, which as of today, Vietnam and Bangladesh are able to provide. India is also growing, but it has kind of maintained the share of 2019 level. So, and that two companies are doing good, but the scope is, because India has complete supply chain, people look towards India to buy more and more. Similarly, in EU also, but EU China has maintained the share. While Bangladesh has gone up, they have the FTA with EU. Turkey has gone up, but India has also gone up by but only 1%. So I would say Bangladesh, Turkey, India, and China are important players. Vietnam is also catching up at the same time in EU. But let's understand now. I have given you perspective in terms of what US and Europe are doing, uh, how business is evolving vis-a-vis US and Europe. Now, if you see trends, these are important points where we'll understand that these trends will set the pace in terms of how businesses will perform by 2025. So, if you see evolving consumer and retail trends, when we say that people are more going towards health, hygiene, safety, they are moving towards comfort clothing. So, the importance of moving towards comfort clothing is that you will have in textiles and garments, you have woven and knitwear. So knitwear is growing faster than woven garments. So more and more people, and even in woven, there are different kinds of blends which are coming up. E-commerce has grown much faster in last because of people who have seen the convenience of through e-commerce in 2020. So it has maintained the pace there, and people are talking about from fast fashion to slow fashion. Means instead of saying let's change everything with shipments not going, let's again move to certain less number of seasons, but it's a small change. How far it will go, we have to see. Buyers are diversifying from China, but the important point here is buyers are looking to diversify. We have seen US already impact of 8%, but it's not easy to find alternative to China because they are able to provide scale, quality, variety, and cost competitiveness. All those four things, whoever is going to supply, buyers are ready to shift. But are many people giving an option on that is a big question mark, and which is where we can say in Europe they have still maintained the share, and US they have only come down to 8%. Given an option, they could have come down much lower. Sustainability is a big focus. Digitalization is also a big focus. So these are certain trends which we have to keep in mind, and those companies who are following these trends will be the winners. You would say in times to come. Where does India stands? Indian market is almost $142 billion. Domestic consumption is 106. Exports is $36 billion. And out of this, apparel, as I told, 78 billion. Technical textiles 28 billion, 20 billion. Home textiles 8 billion. This is Indian domestic market. And exports is divided 16 billion in apparel, and textile is 20 billion. This is how it is positioned. Definitely, domestic market in India, countries like India and China have this advantage. While they focus on exports, but domestic market is bigger than export market, and the growth of domestic market is dependent on so many factors, and which are favoring at this moment is favoring India. So, assuming that 10% CAGR it continues to grow, so the $78 billion apparel market will go to almost $135 billion, which is a huge growth. So, Indian companies are also thriving not only on exports but on domestic market. Whenever you see the performance, these things have to be kept in mind. Textile and apparel exports for India went down from 36 to 30. Everybody went down. India only went down by 17% in 2020-21. And we expect that if we still continue to maintain this growth, while Indian government or companies are expecting more growth than this, but as of now, I have not taken an impact of PLI and other schemes which government is coming up. Assuming the growth will continue in the same way, $36 billion will go by 2020 to $65 billion by 2025-26. So this is our estimation. Just give you a glimpse of how the trade stands. By comparing these numbers, we'll understand when we compare China with anyone. I think it's not a comparison which is there, because China global trade of textile and apparel is almost $284 billion, while India stands at 36. Vietnam and Bangladesh, which have grown really fast in last 10 years, Vietnam has reached to almost 44 billion, and Bangladesh to 42, 43 billion dollar. But still to catch up a lot in terms of if you want to say that somebody has to take share from China. So this is how $839 billion trade stands, to give you a perspective. Now these few slides, because this was the question which is always asked, that India's competitiveness over other players. If you see in terms of raw material availability, India and China are the two countries which have like everything ticked. Except in India, when you talk about large scale capacities, there are few players. So there are big corporates spinning capacities which are as big as China, only few players. China would have 20 players like that. India would have one or two players like that. That's the difference. That's and even when they are smaller players, they are consolidators who are there. So instead of every player wanting to export separately, in China, there are consolidators who have the marketing companies uh, who, like GTIG is one company with $4.4 billion exports, and 1.4 billion they do through their own factories, and 3 billion they aggregate from the others and export. So they have a different model to bring down the fixed cost, which in India people are not able to adopt. But otherwise, if you see in terms of infrastructure scale, Bangladesh, Vietnam has those, and that's why they are growing much faster. So this is a brief comparison in terms of competitiveness. In terms of factor cost, if you see, India actually is competitive in most of the factor cost, except like even labor cost is only lower than Bangladesh and Ethiopia. Otherwise, Vietnam has also gone above India in terms of that. So definitely there'll be some gaps in efficiency, productivity. Rest all factor cost are not a problem. Definitely our logistic cost is little higher. That's a disadvantage somewhere. Now, if you see what are the issues being faced by major players, if you see China, their wages are rising. We have trade issues. Uh, Trade war with USA is a big problem. So China apparel trade actually is declining. So in last few years, it has 3 years, it has declined at a CAGR of 6%, because uh, definitely this industry is a little cost sensitive on a mass scale. I'm not saying there are higher end or value added garments are not there, but on certain scale, this industry is like this. So there are impacts happening in China, Vietnam. Definitely, with it's not only textile industry or apparel industry, they have automobile industry, they have telecom industry, which is big. So there is a compatibility on wages. So wages are growing faster in Vietnam than other countries. And Vietnam has a lack of presence in entire value chain. They are dependent on most of the products like yarn, fabric, fiber from outside, and they majorly focus on garment. They convert all what they import and then make garments and exports. Bangladesh, earlier wages had a huge advantage they had, but now their wages in 2018 increased by 51%. So they are not too much advantage there for that matter. Definitely, Bangladesh has developed scale, so cost is not such a big factor, but scale is an advantage there. So these are some of the comparatives that one can think of, issues being faced by major players. Then some of the plus points of India. While I would say this slide where we are saying India has youngest population, it is true, but sometimes you overrate, because unless and until you don't skill your population so well, then you don't get the real advantage. So skilling is happening, but I think productivity efficiencies with this younger age, if those are added, it will really add big to our advantage. Uh, India's key strength, definitely manpower availability, manufacturing infrastructure, raw material, preferential market access. When we say preferential market access, we don't have access to US or Europe also, like an FTA which Sri Lanka, Pakistan, or Bangladesh enjoys, where duty free access to Europe. India has only 20% GSP plus quota advantage. So instead of 12%, we pay 9.6% import duty. But still, there is a difference of 9.6 between all other countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. But Indian government, whether from center, state, and with new policies coming up, there's a good support which is there, which can kind of encourage people to invest more in this industry. Some of just in last few slides, some of the thrust areas where central government support, where we have PLI scheme and we have Mitra scheme. So just on a perspective to give you brief, PLI is a production linked incentive. So they are saying that if you invest 100 crores or to 400 crores or then or a turnover of 200 crores to 800 crores, you get an incentive on turnover if you invest in both in synthetic fabrics and garments. So I hope synthetic industry will have. India has good fiber and yarn supply of synthetics. So this fabric and garment investment will happen through this. Mitra, they are talking about development of 1,000-acre plus infrastructurally developed parks, the way you will find in Vietnam, where you have water, power, worker housing, so all kinds of facilities, schools, everything being present in those areas, and they will be developed in coordination with center and states, with state-of-art master developers being taken. So if those parks come, we expect not only India, the international investors also coming and investing in those parks. So this is a kind of ambitious scheme from the government side. Then we have skill development support and other export promotion schemes which are existing in India. With some disadvantage of interest cost and all can be covered up by some of the state government supports that some give some. So it's not a parity all over India. Some states give wage subsidy, also some states give interest subsidy, some don't. So that's why there is a skewed kind of investment which happens. So in India, one has to see from a state perspective instead of saying overall as a country how one is doing, and also from within that, different companies will be doing differently. So instead of generalizing a lot of things, one has to see from company perspective. Way forward, definitely, we feel that India has to leverage their existing capabilities. They have to enhance manufacturing, invest big way, offer good quality, and follow this sustainability, circularity, sustainability, those processes which are in, and bigger companies in India have started adopting those. So those are the positives if India has to really encash on this opportunity in a big way. While growth is happening, but I don't think to a pace which it deserves. So that's what one has to see. And in the end, I would say as a long-term vision, India has to focus on vertical integration, synthetics, sustainable practices, manufacturing excellence. So look beyond US. So there are certain verticals where companies understand, they are working on it, and I hope things will come up better and better in this perspective. Some of the future growth areas like exports, garments, home textiles, and when we talk about technical textiles, we have medical, protective, geo, composites, agro, and key categories being sportswear, activewear, outdoor clothing. So these are like just because as an investor, if people are in these areas, the growth is good. Then as an Indian perspective, the companies existing in these areas will do better than companies into other areas. That's why we just put some slides to understand from that perspective. This is briefly an overview and the presentation. I think let me now let's go, because that was one of the major part where we answer some of the queries of the probable investors. So if we have as we have questions, I would love to answer those. Should I keep the presentation on, Sanjeev ji, or
maybe you can shut it off unless you want to use some of the slides later on? But I think
I remember if somebody has specific query on specific slides and they want to go through. Otherwise, I remember most of these numbers.
No, so let's just then shut it right now. So And what I would request anyone in the participant who has a question, you can please put it in the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll make sure that we ask that question. So I'll start actually with a couple of questions, and then Prerna will take over in terms of asking questions. So just a very macro thing. So we've had a recent change in the ministry. We have a new minister, and also since the minister has come, there seems to be some action at least in place. We've seen announcements which were kind of pending for quite long that happened. So it kind of seemed as if for the first part of COVID, we kind of missed a lot of opportunities. It was looking like as if we were missing the opportunities where Bangladesh and Vietnam, we keep hearing. So are you sensing from the government something more like, are they much more serious than they were before, or what is your sense?
I would just say that all the initiatives which have just come suddenly, while it has come when Piyush Goyal ji has come, but these initiatives are planned earlier than that. So all these big initiatives are not planned in few days and few weeks. They were
Right.
earlier planned. So nothing from the perspective, but definitely textile ministry now has a big advantage because commerce is an important part, and
Yeah.
Piyush Goyal ji looks after commerce and industry and textiles. So a lot of added advantage coming from the coordination from various ministries will help. And Piyush Goyal ji understands the importance of the labor intensity of this industry. So there are extra thrust which is being given by the government, and he's actually personally proactively involved in each and every initiative which is there. So it's a really positive point, but I would not say that it's just because of that, because all initiatives are planned, and these are all larger and bigger initiatives, because states have a much larger role to play in textile investments and development than center through these initiatives want to bring scale larger projects into so that the buyers in US and Europe who are looking for those kind of investments get the advantage there.
Sure. Sure. Thanks. So second thing, you guys are strategic advisors to many of these companies. What are you hearing? Are companies also getting much more excited about this opportunity, because textile industry has been in doldrums for quite some time. It's stagnated. A lot of players died. It used to be a problem even for banks who had given loans to textile, I remember, at one point of time. So have you seen a change? Are you seeing a change in the people who are coming up or wanting to scale up much more? Or what is the sense you're getting?
So, as you said in the beginning itself, today the industry is really doing good. They are actually making profits, and just when they are making profits, I think most of the industries want to expand. So, the bigger players, they are all looking for opportunity to invest. They are waiting for the announcement of PLI schemes also, so that they can make firm plans on that. We at Wazir are also busy with a lot of companies to make their plans for growth and actual investments, because we help them implement also. So Indian industry at this moment is gung-ho about investments, while investment still is skewed more towards yarn side, where
Right.
machineries are booked for 2 years. There are no supply of machine at this moment available if you want to put up plants, and not only in India, internationally also the situation is serious. But fabrics and garments, there the investments are not happening to the extent which it should, because those are the areas where we expect more investment through these initiatives or schemes of the government. And if it comes up, I see a good prospects. But the good part is most of the companies are making money. The share market is also supporting, and companies all are working at this moment of investments on investment plans.
Right. The another question I had was, in COVID, you keep hearing that big players are becoming bigger, sectors are getting more formalized. A lot of small players are kind of, you know, either dying or stagnating because of lack of capital or whatever all the processes, and especially with what had happened with GST, and now COVID has kind of exaggerated that. What are you seeing in textile sector? Are you also seeing the big getting bigger?
Yes, definitely. And I think not only suppliers, bigger suppliers are getting bigger. Even we are working at this moment with a lot of buyers from US and Europe, and working on their global strategies. Buyers are also consolidating. Today, earlier in this industry, the fragmentation was very high. So same one buyer for 500, $600 million imports was looking at 100 plus suppliers. And today they have decided that no, I have to reduce every year in terms of smaller suppliers to by 10-20%. That is the extent of reduction. So they want to consolidate to the extent of keeping 15-20 suppliers. So the consolidation is being pushed from the buyers and is being followed by the suppliers. I think this, and it's not a bad sign as such. The only thing is, in this growth story, if the bigger players, while they're expanding, this industry is where you can't be self-sufficient in everything. So these bigger players can take along the smaller players and see that ultimately they are able to provide the service as a bigger player to the bigger buyers, because smaller
Right.
players will not be able to provide that service. So that's not a bad sign. This is a good sign. It's happening in India also.
Right.
So that's a good sign, I would say.
So the smaller players will become suppliers to the large players, is what you're kind of,
Yes, 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 yes.
right. Yeah, that's you're seeing that in a lot of sectors actually, smaller sectors. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, great. So and so there is actually a question in the box with similar one. So companies like Welspun or KPR, you think they will all benefit from these government incentives as you talked about? So all these PLI schemes and all the incentives that are coming in. You think the bigger players will be able to get better because of that?
Yeah. So, the bigger, see, in PLI scheme, anything less than 100 crore of investment is not accepted. So, you can say almost 130, $140 million. So, anything below that is not accepted. So, bigger players are only going to invest. The good part is we might see some of the players who are not part of this industry also coming in and investing. And that's a thrust needed, because India is growing in a lot of segments. So, as an investor, as a manufacturer, you have opportunities. You are an investor, you want to make money, so you have opportunities in many other areas. Is textile able to attract those from outside, is the important question. Otherwise, bigger players will definitely take a lot of advantage from these schemes and invest big in next 3-4 years, because when you start investing from now, it will take 3 years at least to fructify. But
Right.
growth story is written, but it takes certain time to fructify.
Right. So I guess again similar kind of question, which is that we know that the growth is there for the taking. You also said that India is competitive on cost. What is required? What are those key changes required for China is 8x of India in terms of exports. So what is really required for India to do, or companies to do, either the government to do or the companies to do, to kind of actually capitalize on this opportunity?
I would only say that I think the one of the most important thing is invest big, because unless and until you don't invest big, the turnover. So investment to turnover ratio in textiles is 1:1.5. So unless until you don't invest, you can't reach to the level of what even Vietnam and Bangladesh is. So that is first part, that you have to invest big. Second, there has to be a big focus, because ultimately investment is linked to profitability, and profitability don't come from only incentives from the government. So any company who's focusing on investing big and efficiencies and productivities, because it's a labor intensive industry, productivity matters a lot, of skill by skilling the workforce. So if these two areas are focused, then it's because ultimately it's the companies who have to invest. It's not the government who is going to invest
Right.
in this sector. So uh, bottom line is higher the investment, higher the growth.
Right.
Without investment, you don't have already existing infrastructure running at, we don't have that running at 60-70%. So by increasing the utilization, you can increase. No. Investment, the growth will be directly linked to investments.
Sure. Sure, thank you. So I'll hand it to Prerna, and Prerna, go ahead, and then there are going to be a few questions on the chat box, so I'll ask that later. Prerna.
Yeah. So few of the questions that we had in our mind was, and also some of the investors have asked us to check with you. One is, how big is the Xinjiang issue in terms of, so Xinjiang has an entire supply chain with largest being cotton. So what is the opportunity in different segments? For example, yarn, fabric, garment, home textiles, and even if India takes majority or 5 to 10% share of that Xinjiang province, how big can be the opportunity for Indian players?
See, just to give you quickly some numbers, suddenly it will bring everything into perspective. When we talk about Xinjiang cotton, uh, overall 85% of overall production of China is Xinjiang cotton. So when you say anything made out of cotton in China is getting impacted, and also today 85% cotton, and then you say out of total export of 1.5 billion of yarns, 20% is from Xinjiang region itself. And if you see, China not only exports garments but export $15 billion worth of fabrics of cotton, and that fabric goes to Vietnam, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and gets converted into garments and get exported from there. So that will also be, will come under the scanner and will be banned. So 15 billion garments means, fabric means at least uh, 35 billion dollar worth of garment exports from other countries. From China, almost 8.5 billion dollar worth of garments of cotton gets exported directly to US. That major part of that, 80% of that is from Xinjiang cotton. So overall, if you see, the trade getting impacted will be almost 40 to 50 billion dollar, just because of, and if things are strictly followed. So while
Okay. Yeah.
everybody will try to find a way out, because today you want to buy, even if whilst law has been passed in US, there will be more stricter on that. But suddenly 40-50 billion dollar worth of trade getting impacted, definitely there will be replacement of that cotton going to the local, the local consumption for China, while what was going locally may be consumed elsewhere. So there will be some changes which are going to happen, but you can safely say 20-25 billion dollar definitely worth of trade getting impacted, and is opportunity for others to grab immediately. And so whether it is Vietnam, India, China, Bangladesh, so it's a huge opportunity immediately, because of Xinjiang. People are, the buyers are like looking for that. If country like India, who has complete supply chain, there are bigger investments if happens here, and it's not from numbers perspective. It's like Varun has been, my colleague has been handling two big projects with buyers at this moment on security of cotton, yarn, fabrics. Right, Varun?
Yeah.
Do you see the impact?
No, yeah, you're right. So actually, the key point is you said that if somebody follows it properly, so then there is a trade opportunity of 40 billion. So what is happening is that buyers are also taking a cognizance that if there is a huge gap like 40-50 billion, it is not easy to fill overnight from any supplier, whether it is India or anything, because we are not export ready to that extent. So what buyers are doing is buyers themselves, especially European buyers, are doing is that they are taking their own initiative. So, for example, H&M has created a local team in China, which is doing the farm registry and ensuring that there are no compliance issues, being made. So, one is that US is banned, so definitely that's a government issue. But the brands are ensuring themselves that the cotton which is coming into their supply chain is sustainable from their own standard. There is no third-party audit or anything. So that gap is not easy to be filled by any of the countries. So what has happened is that instead of the Chinese made cotton, the pressure has come on the Indian cotton, US cotton, and Brazilian cotton. So that cotton, the prices have increased, the supply, the demand equation has changed. But so in totality, the amount may not be exactly 40 to 50 billion dollar worth of an opportunity. But again, India is nowhere. Like the garments are only 15 billion dollars. So even if we get 5 or 10% of that, so that is 20% increase in our exports. So that's definitely an opportunity.
That's wonderful. So, one question in extension with this is, are these buyers preferring integrated plays to avoid, the cotton provenance issue, or they are okay having multiple partners in the value chain?
I think that's a very important question what you have raised here. So what happens here is that, sorry, Prashant, you're saying something?
Please take up. No, please take up.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is that working with integrated players gives buyers the peace of mind, right? So like I think there's a question here also. There is, what is the risk to non-integrated players like Gokuldas Exports compared to KPR Mills? So now it's not a risk for Gokuldas, but it is an advantage for KPR Mills if they can certify that their cotton what they're using is in-house. So, but what has happened in last year? So last year there was a big issue of over-reporting of organic cotton in India, some issues related to BCI in India as well as in Argentina. So the buyers are very much particular, or they don't want to get into these kind of an issues. So what they say is that you certify that you're taking the right cotton and using it and giving me the finished product. If it is a broken supply chain, if the yarn is coming from one state, let's say Gujarat, and going to weaving in Karnataka and then getting converted to garment, so they have to map the entire supply chain. So for them, it is easier to work and it is desirable to work with the integrated players as a strategic partner. But that doesn't reduce the importance of others, because Gokuldas Exports is one of the pioneer companies in India. They're doing 1,000 crores export revenue. So those are very important. But buyers' tendency is more work with the integrated players who can meet their demand on a strategic basis.
Okay. Okay. And is this the primary reason why home textiles companies have seen, market share increase, because most of them are well integrated to some extent, to a large extent? And any particular company that you see very promising, doing a great job in, investments or in terms of quality or with respect to their vision to invest?
Right. See, if you talk about the integration level, definitely home textiles factories are mostly integrated. But the point here is that the nature of apparel and home textile is very different. So the success of home textile company doesn't lie in their integration level. The reasons are a little bit different. So first of all, if we talk about the COVID impacted year 2020, Prashant had just shown one slide about talking about the apparel store sales in US. If you look at the home furnishing store sales, so they are much more ahead of the recovery or growth in terms of the apparel. So apparel is growing only at 2%. Home textiles store sales are 11% higher. So the point is that first of all, suddenly the demand for home textiles globally has shot up. People were staying in home. I'm talking of developed countries where people were working from home. So they thought of redecorating, they thought of investing more in the comfort. So home textiles had a kind of a much higher purchase level mainly through online channels and later on offline channel also. So the overall pie increased. So that's what the first thing. Now the other thing is that Indian capacities of home textile players, you talk about any of the top 5 companies, they are actually world scale capacities. They are most competitive, and of course in cotton we have a kind of a very strong raw material base. So they were able to capitalize on that opportunity. Like we are talking about Xinjiang cotton region, so that's an opportunity. But are we able to tap into it or not? That's a question. But home textile companies, because they were very competitive, they were large scale, so they could capture that opportunity. So the success reason is not integration, but it is being at the right place in India at the right time where the purchase was significantly higher in the developed countries. So that's the reason. Okay.
And just to add to what Varun said, home textiles, the players who have come up in this industry, whether it is Welspun, Trident, Indocount, Hinmot Singha, so all of them have from the beginning set up integrated large capacity. So they are as competitive as Chinese players. So if some of the Indian companies who set up these integrated capacities will definitely have advantage, because buyer also want to deal with somebody who is credit worthy and who has those kind of capacities, and they can service for any shortcomings also. So that's, and I would say definitely home textile industry, most of these players will have advantage in long term because they will capture the opportunity or the growth which Varun has talked about. So I won't name a single company, but I would say as a sector, everybody, because all are big, so all are capturing opportunity to with the buyers they are working.
That's great. We're running out of time. I'll just ask one question here about on the policy front. So if we look at WTO quota abolition time 2005, and we look today's time and try to compare both the opportunity scale, because there we had a world opening up, and now here we have consolidation and other trends opening up trade for India. So, do you think that this time is different, and the government policies would definitely look at, helping companies to gain market share, or India to gain market share as compared to last time where we missed the opportunity?
So I would say, Prerna, I think those two things, those two happenings or events cannot be fully compared. Reason is, Indian companies today are much more equipped for growth. The banks are ready to fund. There are the India as a country has also come a long way. At those times, there are only selected players which were there, like Shahis of the world, who could capture the opportunity. But today, I think many more players are there who can capture this opportunity. I would say definitely opportunities is as big as what it was in 2005, because for India, which is at this stage of $37 billion, if you capture $10 billion itself, is a growth of almost 25%. So I would say the opportunity is big, and I hope this time, and the government also has larger amount that they can share for those investments. Infrastructure growth is also faster. The scenario is different. While whether textile really capitalize on it or other sectors, one will see. But opportunity is big.
Prerna, there are a couple of questions I'll quickly on the chat, and I'll ask those questions,
Yes, sir.
and then we can end there. So one is, do you think China issue is a short-term issue and supplies from China will resume in medium term?
No, I don't think China is a short-term issue. And buyers have already understood that China is not a short-term issue. Not only from the perspective of Xinjiang cotton, you have to see from other perspective where Chinese industry are moving not only from textiles to other value-added items. So there is a shift which is happening from China. So I would say it's a long-term issue, and buyers have understood. They are looking for partners to develop in India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and any other country where they see the opportunity. And this shift will be gradually happening. It all depends on how other countries really encash on it.
Sure. Okay, in terms of prospects, how would you rank yarn apparel and home textiles for the future market share gains from global? So if you look at these three segments.
I would say it's again the simple comparative is the scale. Today, if you see in yarn also, India has companies which have scale. So they are really grabbing the opportunity. In home textiles, we have companies with scale, they are grabbing it. Garment opportunity is much bigger than these, but we don't have companies of that scale, so we can't grab it. So it's not about the sector, it's also about the companies who are in those sectors who can grab that opportunity.
So, yeah, that's it. Last question, sir. Do you think PLI and synthetics will change our knitted ecosystem stronghold? As you mentioned in initial commentary, casual wear and demand is rising. Is PLI targeting the wrong thing in terms of, are we designing incentive scheme incorrectly? Should we, instead of man-made?
I think there is some misunderstanding. Actually, PLI scheme is applicable to knitted fabrics and garments also, till the time they are manufactured from synthetic fibers. So polyester, nylon, any kind of fiber which is used, synthetic fiber, which is used for knitted products, is also covered under PLI. So whether it is knitted or woven, till the time they are manufactured from synthetics, it is covered.
it's
So
covered.
it's
Right.
an absolutely good scheme targeted at the right time and in the right sector. If people invest, I think it will help grow the ecosystem from fiber, yarn to actually fabrics and garments where the end consumer and you get the value addition also. So I would say it will help the ecosystem and give a good trust to this sector.
Sure.
So
Anything,
one
any
question
last,
I
sorry.
have
Yeah, Prerna, go ahead.
one question I have received in the yarn segment, wherein the investor is asking on whether yarn capacity increase can be more than 2.5 million spindles per annum going forward. In the past, we have seen higher capacity addition when Tufts was there. Do you think now with gaining profits, spindleage capacity in India will increase more than that?
Yeah, Prashant, let me just answer that if you allow me. So
Sure,
actually, this is the exact number what we are calculating. In last couple of days only. So what we are estimating is that in next 2 years, I'm not talking of 1 year. Looking at the order situation which is there with the machinery suppliers, whether Indians or imports, etc. So we are expecting almost 4.5 million spindles being added in the country. So half of that is like 2.25 million. So this is almost the right number which is there, and of course the imports of machinery has not started because there are capacity available still with machinery people inside the country. So this may be a little bit higher also.
Okay.
So that's a realistic figure.
And
Sure.
at the same time, Prerna, it doesn't really, even if the capacity is higher, if you are competitive in a segment, the way Chinese, when they put up capacities, they never bothered about whether capacity is higher or lower.
Right.
If they are competitive, you can always replace the existing ones very easily. So I think
Right.
competitiveness is more important than in saying that how much capacity, whether they'll be able to serve or whether they'll be able to
Right.
maintain the profits. I
Right.
think
On
that's
that
There
note,
will be two
Prerna, I
parts.
think, sorry, there is one more important statistic that we should be aware. In last 4 years, China has reduced 4.4 million spindles. It has added the different kind of technology, but in terms of spindleage, what is there? The net installed capacity of spindleage has come down by 4.4 million. So if you're replacing, if you're relocating to some other country, so that gap is there. So this is, it will not be like a kind of an oversupply situation. While to a certain extent it will be there, but it will not be 10-12% direct capacity surplus which will be there in the market.
Oh, that answers my question.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Sanjeev sir.
No, I think any last comment we missed out, anything that you think is important for people to look at?
I would say, I think as investors who are there with BK Securities, I would only say that uh, definitely India as a country has good prospects. Definitely, when you see India, normally it's not like Vietnam that as a country we see that everybody is kind of growing. So in India, when you look towards, you have to look towards region, you have to look towards companies, you have to detail down, do the analysis of those companies to be really see that whether this company is going to grow, because ecosystem in terms of is same for everyone, but it's all about what kind of management and what kind of practices. And today the dimensions are many, whether it's sustainability, it's not only whether you are able to produce. People are talking about sustainability, circularity, the buyers. It's being pushed from the consumers. It's not only pushed from the buyers. When consumer is asking for, you have no options but to see that it happens. Otherwise, consumer is not going to buy. From that perspective, I would say after a long time, it's a good cycle to be in, and we see a growth from a longer term perspectives, and that's what we see. I hope people capitalize on this, companies capitalize on this, and give growth to everyone.
Great, sir. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time. Mr. Prashant and Marun, thank you very much for participating. And as usual, we'll be in touch with you guys to get more
Sure.
insights.
Thanks.
We learn a lot.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Here from
Our
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Thank you, Varun. Thank you,
Thank you.
Prashant, sir.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, bye-bye.
Sorry
Thank you.
for this technical glitch. Good afternoon to everyone. And I am Raja Shanmugam, representing Tirupur Exporters Association. Can we start, or you just give an introduction?
So, no. Yeah, so I'll just kind of introduce. So just to kind of introduce Tirupur Export Association for people who don't know, Tirupur, obviously, all of you know who follow textile that, it accounts for a very, very large part of cotton knit exports. so the exports, I think this year you are targeting 25,000 crores, from what I understand. And Mr. Shanmugam is the president there, and the Export Association has a very large membership of almost like 1,200 plus members. And so Mr. Shanmugam can talk us about the whole Tirupur, what's happening in Tirupur and what happening in textiles and apparels especially. So Mr. Shanmugam, maybe we can start by just why Tirupur, like what's happening in Tirupur, why is Tirupur such a stronghold, and why has it actually grown bigger over a period of time where some of the other centers haven't? What do you have in Tirupur which is so special?
Yeah. Sorry for this delay again. Regarding Tirupur, I just want to give a brief about it, which was a tiny village some 4 decades back, and now it has become a capital for knitwear produce of the entire country, holding more than 55 to 60% of the knitwear production share of the country. So, to such much of achievement could become possible because of the collective teamwork of the region people. And right now, amidst of all this chaotic situation because of the corona and its aftermath, it's again limping back to its early normal. And 1920, we have crossed to 27,500 crore, and which has got dipped to 25,000 crore last year. And now we are aiming to cross 30,000 crore this year, this financial year. Exports alone, I'm talking about. But Tirupur caters to the domestic as well as export equally. So now we are hovering around 60,000 crore trade from the cluster, contributing to the domestic as well as to the export. And we have set our target to reach 1 lakh crore by 2024 by all means, because we have set this target by 2020 only. We have set this target in 2015 to achieve 1 lakh crore by 2020. Unexpectedly, the macroeconomic changes what has been brought in since 2016 December onwards, that demonetization followed by GST, which did have a lot of confusion in the trade, and thereby we were got struck, I would say. Subsequently, it has been followed by the corona, we all know. So the target which we have set for ourselves by 2020 could not be achieved. So now we have changed the goalpost to 2024. Definitely, it will be achieved. And as far as Tirupur is concerned, and as far as this trade is concerned, what we have the confidence is that as long as mankind lives on earth, demand grows for a few products other than food for the mankind. And in that view, the priority product is clothing. So we have that much of prospects for this industry, for sure. I used to say of late, in the given situation, even the food requirement proportionate to the population is receding because of the dietary conditions. On the other side, the conceptual changes are catching up on the attire segment, where more dresses per person per day is required nowadays. Right from morning jogging, then office wear, then formal wear, if any, then party wear, then retirement wear. So per person on earth requires these many number of dresses in a day only. So such much of prospects has got open to this industry, and in which Tirupur, particularly for the casual wear segment, we got our position well entrenched, and we are very much aiming for a speedier growth the coming days. So this is the situation right now I can give. Subsequently, we can deliberate on this industry, and whatever the questions you can ask, I can share my thoughts and my views also.
Sure, sir. So we keep hearing about China vacating and India. So what are you hearing on the prospects? Or what are the prospects? Are you seeing much more demand coming from Europe? Especially, I think you guys have in Tirupur is pretty strong in Europe. what are you seeing in terms of demand from Europe and US?
Yeah, right now we have an ample chance because China is being seen wrong on many fronts, particularly the global spread of virus. China is to be blamed right now. That is the situation. And further to it, their aggressive policies also made people to think other way. So the globally there happens an anti-China feeling, which is brewing, and that is unfortunate for India-like countries because China holds line share in almost all the product ranges, and particularly the ready-made garments. They have 40% of the global share right now. So whatever this swift shift could happen from China, even a 5% shift would demand to Tirupur in India. So that much of prospects getting open for India-like country, and we have to gear up. And for that matter, Tirupur, we are taking a view on this, and we are just propagating to our members because we are using the established facilities just for 12 hours because of the wantage of labor. The rest 12 hours a day is kept idle only. So right now, Tirupur Exporters Association is promoting projects through the members to go for housing for the laborers, because instead of investing on plant and machinery, so on their own land bank, let us promote housing for our own laborers. So thereby, if we could provide a house for a labor, he or she will bring a family for good, and that will help in all aspects, because the family also would get prospects of more earning members, because anyone can join in this stream. Even ladies are preferable to get joined in this mainstream, so they can get trained and they can join themselves in the mainstream. So thereby, if a family has been brought in and if family members have got into this production line, automatically the surge in labors also automatically would happen, and automatically the per family earning also will go up, and industry also can utilize the full capacity by using the established plant and machinery around the clock. So this is going to be a win-win situation. So thereby silently we can scale up our production capacity without much of plant and machinery investments. This is one program we are taking forward. So thereby we can easily get our income doubled. So that means country can earn more foreign exchange through this program, which is very much possible. So like right now we are just working out with government agencies and authorities to facilitate this collectively, joining hands with the industry and get this ideal program to get promoted and established. So definitely this industry's growth is very much assured in the coming days. And as you asked about the demand growth in importing countries, yes, definitely, because US has taken a vehement stand against China. So a lot of China orders are getting deflected to India-like countries. So automatically the surge in order placement to India is happening, and it is being witnessed. The last 6 months down the line, we could able to see the real surge through the statistical data what we are getting. Almost 20 to 30% of US orders growth has been well registered. So likewise, European orders also it's getting deflected from China to India-like countries, India, Bangladesh, Vietnam. And India is in the advantageous position because we do have the raw materials. So only thing is we have to gear up ourselves to ensure the growth of this industry.
Right. Okay, thank you. Prerna, over to you, Prerna.
Pardon?
No, I'm just telling my colleague, Prerna. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Welcome to the webinar. So, few questions that investors have asked, and I'll put them to you, are one, how does Indian garment industry fare against Bangladesh and Vietnam? And what is the scale that ideal scale, that global scale that people talk about? For example, in terms of capacity that people look at while placing orders from the international markets.
Madam, this has we have to have collective strategies to be in place. So one thing is, if we go for the basic dresses, so the basic programs, of course, it is a standard product which could be done anywhere across the world, and thereby we would not be competitive because of varied other factors. Like Bangladesh is having a tariff advantage with European nations. So thereby we won't be competitive in those lines. But this industry as a whole is a design-driven industry. So the design-oriented products are more in number, and seasonal-oriented products are more in numbers. So for example, a year is getting divided into 12 seasons in the European horizon. So that means month on month one collection has to happen. So that much of a design appetite this industry is having. So we have to, India like country can work on these designer products rather than the basic products to get it positioned well. Tirupur has done that only, because we do have the basic orders in line, but more concentration is happening on the designer lines. So where the Bangladesh cannot compete with us. So that is the strength of Tirupur as on date, and we are working on that. And now we are just working on product enlargement also. So right now we were concentrating on cotton-based products, and now we are just product range.
So you're not audible.
Yeah, hello, now? Now
Yeah,
you could
now
hear?
you're audible.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we could not end. We are. Hello.
Sir, again, you're not audible. Yeah.
Yeah, man-made fibers. So thereby our product unit value also will grow, and product ranges also would grow. And now the global demand is also mostly on MMF based products. So those things are there, and India has an advantage on two fronts. One is that we do have a raw material, both cotton and man-made fibers, in our country only. So whereas Bangladesh or Vietnam, if you take, they have to be dependent always. So that way we can work on these product range, and definitely we can outwit Bangladesh or any competitors in the near future.
Okay. Okay. But what do you how do you take the government policies that are being announced, which are focused on a minimum sum of investment on PLI front? Is it possible for small players which are present in India to invest like 100 crores at one go and show turnover that the government is desiring? How attractive is PLI scheme for the garment industry?
So of course the PLI scheme recently they have got announced, and we have to welcome it. Even we did welcome the PLI scheme. Though it is unsuitable for Tirupur cluster altogether, because as you rightly said, minimum 100 crore investment had to happen in first 2 years, and third year we have to show 200 crore business. So which is highly impossible. And even it has been designed for a few big wigs. We believe that it has been designed for a few big investors only. So anyhow, we just welcomed it, and we need those investments also, because right now we have a very good opportunity. As I told, that anti-China feeling brings more business to India-like country. So where we need to scale up our establishments swiftly, and we have to showcase to the world, the global brands, that we can be a real substitute to Chinese players. So those investments has to happen. So that is good. But other than that, we have just even the recent PLI announcement, launch program, which we which I addressed in Chennai when it got launched, and the additional secretary from Government of India, and here the state honorable minister convened a meeting on this program, where I have been one of the invitee. So I have told that, so okay, at least the PLI, first PLI 1 scheme has been out, has come into play. If you want to design the PLI 2 or PLI 3, you just keep in mind that Tirupur-like clusters, where micro and small investors are more in number, they need to be hand-holded to this scaling up program by devising policies to attract those investments, though it in small scale, but that is also need to be encouraged, and that is also need to be brought into play. So then only the collective growth of this industry could get registered. So this I have told to them, and they are also acknowledged it. And I wish that the PLI 2 scheme would be devised, and it would be much more dynamic in version.
Okay. But when we look at the global importers, they are looking at large order sizes, global scale capacities. Then do you think that both the models make sense? Like for example, a small scale capacity encouragement by government will make the difference for India?
Yeah,
Because people
definitely,
are
because
looking at
as I told you, that this is a design-driven industry. So only the basic programs would be in bigger size,
okay.
which is a common product. So which would be in the bigger size, but all the design products would be in a smaller size. So this industry is having a more demand for the seasonal products rather than the basic products. So the
Okay.
seasonal products do need the Tirupur-like clusters to be given important position, because the cluster only could accomplish the design task very easily. So that is the strength of Tirupur too, because as I told you in the beginning, that Tirupur was a tiny village some 4-5 decades back. Now it has become a hub for the entire nation, and becoming capital for the entire nation as far as the knitwear industry is concerned. So that means the cluster growth would be much faster than individual entities growth, as far as this industry is concerned. So the cluster supportive programs is very much required to promote this industry, to speed up the growth of this industry also.
Okay. Okay. And so how do you look at mega textile park scheme, wherein the government is looking at infrastructure support plus presence of entire value chain, including garments and yarn fabric in one area? How the government policies are going to, encourage investment in the garment sector and in the country? How do you look at the recent government policies?
No, actually, regarding the mega investment, this Mitra,
Yeah.
Mitra project, that is a mega textile park. So that is also conceived for the larger players, because only a large investment is invited for it. So wherein they want to make the scaled up establishments to address the global requirements as far as textile industry is concerned. But again, I would say that the parts what it is being discussed and what it is being conceived, it all need to be brought under the plug and play module. So if it is being promoted in that real spirit, that the government take care on those lines of bringing up the establishment of a physical structure, whatever it is required, and asking the industry to take part into it on this plug and play module, that would easily promote this industry, and more investors would come into play to take this industry to the greater height. So this we have advocated to the government of India, the policymakers, and I wish that that would be taken care in the coming programs. So only even for Tamil Nadu also, I have addressed this issue to the concerned ministries, that this plug and play module only would help to replicate Tirupur cluster elsewhere in the state, or if it been viewed in the nation level, only this program, initial plug and play program, would help the respective state to get Tirupur successful formula to get replicated. So that is the option available right now.
Okay. And sir, with in Tirupur, what would be the share of MMF garments and cotton garments in the total production?
As on date, the MMF garment is having a meager percentage, say about 5% only. So right now we are giving a very big push towards MMF, and thereby we have invited Grasim, the Birla Group, to open a studio over there, and they did open a studio over there. As well as the Reliance also got to open their studio in Tirupur. So when they approached me, I told them that this cluster is a raw cluster, and which has to be molded to your requirement. So for which you have to be more educative than the business promotion. So through educative methodology, you have to promote your business prospects. So that has been well taken by those two organizations, and they have immediately come forward and got opened a studio. And right now we are just enlarging our product range into MMF. So I hope that in the coming years the share would get drastically improved upon, and thereby we would have a judicial mix of MMF products as well as cotton-based products.
Okay. And the recent initiatives by the government on reducing on GST front or anti-dumping duty reduction on the man-made fibers and efforts to reduce the inverted duty structure and stuff. Do you think man-made fiber industry is now attaining competitiveness on the global landscape for India?
Yes, of course, because for the last 3-4 decades, this anti-dumping duty was favoring a few establishments in the country, and now which got uprooted by this government, and which has provided a level playing field for for our industry. It has provided a level playing field for us. So here we can be more competitive on man-made fiber product ranges. So previously it was not so because of the anti-dumping duty. Automatically our price compared to the international price was having a huge difference. So thereby in the raw material stage itself we were self-defeated. So right now we do have an ample chance of growing our share in this range of products also, the global market.
Okay. And sir, we received one question on impact on in terms of rising costs. For example, cotton and yarn prices are increasing over the last 6 to 8 months. How do you see the impact of the same on the garment industry and the competitiveness of Indian garment exports? Is it
Of
possible to
course,
pass on?
yeah, of course, it was a great concern for all of us. But fortunately, it was an universal theory. It's not confined to India alone. And fortunately, India was amidst of that chaotic situation. India was its in advantage position because compared to the international prices of cotton yarn, India was cheaper. So though here the price surge was a matter of concern, but when you compare with other nations or competitors nations, it was very much an advantage position only. So
Okay.
we could able to pass on the the price of the price rise to the product internationally. So that could happen.
Okay. Okay. And in terms of competitive advantage between India, Bangladesh, and Vietnam, what do you think India should do to gain further market share, which is obviously offered by China at this point in time, where because people are reducing exposure to China, but what India can do to grab the share rather than Bangladesh and Vietnam, which have gained market share over the past many years, and India has remained stagnant. So, in your opinion, what are the steps India should take to gain more market share? Are the steps taken enough? And how do you see it?
No, actually, compared to Bangladesh and Vietnam, our policy making process itself is so complicated. Because in China, if Bangladesh, if you take for a matter of comparison, there all the policy makers do have a direct link onto the industry. So anything and everything is being understood, well understood by the policymakers, and swiftly they just do give the leadership to the industry on the whole. So which is lacking in India, because in Indian terrain we don't have the policymakers to have enough knowledge onto the trade and do evolve a policy to a dynamic policy to support the industry's growth. So which is very much lacking in India like country, India particularly. So thereby we were being easily defeated by a tiny nation like Bangladesh and Vietnam on these lines. Because that's what we are on behalf of Tripura Exporters Association. We are enlightening this lacuna to the policymakers, because even many of the for your information, many of the policymakers, when we approached them and we just got ourselves introduced that I am hailing from Tirupur, and Tirupur is hub for the knitwear industry. By saying Tirupur itself, they misunderstood it as mistaken it as Tirupura. So they don't know the existence of Tirupur. So they, because of this lack of understanding, you imagine how the policies would be supportive to the industry. So Tirupur is a capital for knitwear produce of the country, but many of the policy makers not even known where Tirupur is in existence. So instead of Tirupur, they mistook themselves as a Tirupura. So this much of understanding only do have in our system of so imagine the policies, how it would be devised and how it would be effective for the growth of the industry. So that has been very much witnessed because we are being blessed to have all the raw materials. Cotton, we are number one cotton producing country. Man-made fiber, again, we are number two man-made fiber producing country. Population, we are youngest nation in the community of nations across the globe. So where more eligible job seekers are available in our country, these three are major ingredients required to run this industry. But unfortunately, unfortunately, even we've been abundantly blessed with all these three factors. We have been easily defeated by tiny nations like Bangladesh, Vietnam, Cambodia, even Sri Lanka too. So we are now relegated to the 6th position in the global share. So above us, 5 players are well positioned. Of course, China do have 40% of share, where Bangladesh is having around 16% of share, and followed by Vietnam 12% and Cambodia, and even Sri Lanka was hovering around 4%. We are also hovering around 4%. So we have been relegated to 6th position. So by seeing this pathetic global share percentage, we could assess how our policy support is being given to this industry.
So do you think labor reforms could be one of the factors which could attract more investments in the garment segment? Because when we talk to various companies, because of high labor requirement in the industry, especially in the garment segment, they do not want to enter this segment. So what kind of labor reforms would actually attract more investments into the sector?
So here actually, this is a labor intensive industry, as you rightly told. Here actually we have to take cue from China as well as from Bangladesh. So how they are managing the labor policies, which do become a productive instead of destructive. So here the policies, if we do devise more stringent without understanding the requirement and reality around us, so definitely it would be destructive. So we have to take cue from China and Bangladesh, and we have to implement in India accordingly. So here actually the working hours need to be enhanced, because the laborers are very, very much interested to do more work and more, they want to earn more also. So these flexible programs need to be accommodated in our labor policies, which do available in China. Because in China, if a person has been assigned with a certain quantity to be accomplished a day, without seeing the working hours, he or she has to accomplish that. So these kind of dynamic and variant productive policies need to be in place. So that is our wish and our demand too.
Okay. Sanjeev, so you.
Yeah. So a couple of questions from my side. So we are seeing a huge, problem in logistics right now. Container shortages and logistics costs. How is it impacting? Yeah. How is it impacting you guys?
Yeah, actually, as I told you, that our products are design-driven products.
Yeah.
It has to reach the stores on time. If it misses the delivery dates, obviously it will become self-outdated in a short while only. So that much of risk we are just handling right now. And as you rightly said, that the logistic has become a big headache for this industry. And it has become a headache for the entire globe.
Yeah.
Because nowadays no free movement of ships to witnessed, because of very many this corona restrictive policies. The ship sailing also has been crippled to a major extent. So which all need to be discussed together by the community of nations, and it has to get resolved. Otherwise, this will kill the industry and kill the global trade very much. So that has been witnessed, and our industry is also subject to that onslaught. So
Right.
we are just trying our best to make sure our products reaches on time to the destinations and to the stores. And buyers are also supporting it and coordinating with us to get it done. But anyhow, it is the biggest challenge what is being faced as on date right now.
Sir, so when you said that you want to reach a target of 30,000 crores this year of exports from Tirupur, do you think, with all these logistics problem, we can still achieve that?
Yeah, we hope so. We are working hard to make that to happen, and we are just inching towards it. We are on the progressive move only.
Right.
We hope that soon it would be resolved, and we have addressed this issue to the government of India to take up with the biggest global players, because this has to be resolved collectively. No government, single government, Indian government cannot do anything on its own. So this logistic issue has to be collected by bringing everyone, all the stakeholders onto the table, and it has to be resolved collectively. So that pressure by enlightening the ground reality we have given to the government of India, and government of India also considered to take the much required efforts to resolve this as quick as possible. And we have been told that by November onwards it would be regularized. So we wish that to happen, and thereby we have a strong hope to achieve or cross 30,000 crore what we have set as a target for ourselves.
Right. But if I look at it, so there are very lots of small companies. So as an association, do you help, or how does it work? Each company supplies on its own, exports on its own, or is there like a collective effort that happens?
No, each company separately works on their own, and
Right.
only association can give a moral guidance.
Right.
And if at all any collective steps need to be taken, and we do provide that.
Right.
And in this regard, we just keep on enlightening them about the global prospects, what is in the offing and how it could be tapped properly, and what are the lacunas we are having on our side, which need to be corrected. So all these collective information and sharing of our suggestions and ideas to happen periodically. So in that way, we build our close networking to grow this industry to the next level.
Sure. So one other thing, during COVID time, quite a few players must have, it's just a lot of small and medium-sized companies, and may have faced a lot of problem. Did the ECLGS scheme help in terms of tiding over liquidity problems?
Yes, actually, we were facing a huge threat on the monetary side. Initially, when the COVID first lockdown happened,
Right.
and it was a big threat for all of us, because we run on the credit line. So almost 90 days credit would be on circulation. So that means Tirupur alone was in the first COVID closure. It was facing a problem to the tune of 10,000 crores of shipped garments worth payments.
Right.
So we were totally afraid of, and we were in a perplexed condition. But fortunately, all other nations, the importing nations, they took a proactive step and got diffused a huge sum of money into the trade lines, and thereby it got resolved.
Right.
And subsequently, when we, on the other side, we just because of the credit line again, we suddenly got because of the closure, got dried up of all our liquidity. So what is need to be in the system? So immediately we appeal to the government of India that immediately 25 to 30% infusion is very much required.
Right.
And subsequent to our continuous appeal and request, the government has considered and devised the ECLGS program and
Yes.
got given us 20% of liquidity support in the initial the last year 2020. That was very much helpful for the industry to survive. Otherwise, the existence itself would have been a question mark. So
Yeah.
now we got survived the first onslaught, and of course the second onslaught was so bad compared to the first onslaught. And there also we appeal to the government of India again. Infusion of 20% level is very much required. The government has considered for 10% infusion, and that has been announced, and now it is helping the industry to a certain extent.
Right. So you think that you have 1,200 members almost in your association. So you think that because of this ECLGS scheme, the number of bankruptcies that could have potentially happened was probably reduced, and because the textile industry is doing all right, so you would think that most of the people would have come out all right in this, right?
Yes, of course, it did have a greater help to survive the situation. And further, as I told, that now the cost of the formal wear, the casual wear segment has got picked up globally because the work at home culture as a new normal has happened.
Right.
So because that requires more casual wear, and Tirupur fortunately falls under the category of casual wear manufacturing
Yes.
segment. So that has helped to revive the industry as quickly as possible.
Right.
Compared to any other industry, I would say. So that is the fact. So what need to be appreciated.
Sir, you as an industry, as Tirupur, you obviously you all are very big in exports, but also, as you said, equally big in domestic as well. What is growing faster? The exports are growing faster, or the domestic is growing faster?
So for your understanding, in 2011, the export was around 10,500 crore,
Right.
wherein the domestic was having 3,500 crore. From Tirupur perspective alone, I am talking about.
Yeah.
So it was the situation in 2011. Right now, export is also hovering around 30,000 crore, and the domestic is also hovering around 30,000 crore.
Right.
So imagine how much growth has happened in the domestic market.
Right.
So our market is expanding very fastly compared to the global market. And for matter of fact, we have to appreciate and we have to accept that even international brands which are procuring from us have started shops in India and opening more number of shops in all across the country. So that means Indian market is a very potential and growing market in the global perspective, I would say.
Right. Right. So, so last question from my side. In terms of, so if you look at, especially on the domestic side, you said that almost like 8, 9 times, 9 times growth has happened over last few years, and would it mean that is the sale going to the end user in a way that the brand themselves, or is actually a lot of companies have become suppliers to larger companies who are then
So now,
becoming
actually, as far as the ready-made garments goes, the brand value is receding, I would say.
right.
Right now, the value for money is being well appreciated because this is the use and throw casual wear segment. So the people like to have more attachment to the value-based product rather than the brand-based product. So the values, if your product has that value for money concept embedded in it, automatically it would be appreciated. So now this industry has that segment to grow fastly compared to the brands.
Right. So would you say then that, people like Amazon, who are, a lot of these, the Flipkarts of the day, who are all starting their own brands now and doing e-commerce, have they become big buyers from Tirupur?
No, they are not buyers actually. They provide platform to all the
Okay.
small emergents.
Right.
So this is the that has become a facilitating platform for
Hmm.
more companies to launch their products very easily across the globe.
Right.
So I would see in that sense only.
Hmm.
Because some Amazon like big brand, they do have their own brands,
Right.
but that portion would be very minimum compared to the facilitating program what they are
Mhm.
offering.
Right.
So even you and me can open our account through Amazon or Flipkart, whatever it is,
Right.
and got our products showcased and got it sold off. So,
Right.
so that possibility has now become more vibrant, and of course, after this COVID, the e-commerce growth is unimaginable size.
Right. Hmm.
So now everyone works on through e-commerce, right from grocery to clothing, all do happen through e-commerce only.
So you are saying that a lot of the Tirupur suppliers now have their kind of own brand, which they are now selling through Amazon or Flipkart or something like that. Is that also
But
happening there? Yeah.
yes, slowly it is picking up right now because of these platforms, the e-commerce platforms
Hmm.
offerings. A
Right.
lot of small players also got themselves registered through this process.
Right.
But majority of us, we do for the brands only. Many of the European brands or American brands.
Sure.
For the global brands, we do as a service provider to them as
Right.
on date.
Hmm.
But of course, the e-commerce route also, it's got open to many players, and
Hmm.
slowly the surge in numbers happens on those lines also.
Right. And are you seeing more consolidation, which means that within players, some people buying the other players, the slightly stronger players buying the smaller players? Are you seeing some bit of that happening within Tirupur?
Yeah, actually that do happen because brands in Tirupur, as far as Tirupur, brands are smaller in numbers.
Yeah.
So we don't have independent brands from Tirupur horizon. Only few brands have got promoted from Tirupur.
Hmm.
So there sometimes these two assimilation process do happen.
Hmm.
Even recently there was one brand called Dixie, and which was got over by Crompton Greaves. I hope so. So likewise, the assimilation process do happen,
Hmm.
but it is in small number as on date. Tirupur.
Right. Right. Sure. Prerna, any last questions?
Yeah, I've received one question with respect to yarn prices and cotton prices from a participant, wherein they've asked that is there further scope for price increase in yarn prices and which can be passed on to the consumers or to the buyers, and how receptive are buyers to get more price hikes?
So obviously the price hikes won't be appreciated by buyers in any point of time. There would be resistance and there would be objections. But as I told that unfortunately or fortunately, we have to live with that situation. We have to pass through. And right now, we don't expect the price hike would happen again because new crops are going to be in. So once new crops start flowing in, automatically the price will get stabilized, at least for next 3-4 months or 5 months. So we have to wait and watch only. And this is a commodity. Being a commodity, the price hike and price drop is always would happen. So we have to get prepared ourselves. As a businessman, we have to be very strong to predict, or we have to have our absorbing capacity either way, because the thing is that suddenly some spike to disturb the trade for a short while, and then it will get stabilized. But because through our past experience, we have to keep ourselves vigilant on those lines, and we have to keep our position strong to handle the situation if it again crops up.
And the last question is on the geography-wise exports from Tirupur area. What will be the top 3 to 4 countries and their shares in Tirupur export?
Yeah, we do have 35% share to US market, and around 40% share to European market. Put together with the UK, if you just compute together, it would be around 40 to 45% again. And rest 20% got spread across UAE, Australia, very few to Japan too. So likewise, we got spread in this range across the globe.
And sir, is Japan seeing more traction going forward as we've signed agreement with them for trade partnership?
Yes, we hope so, because the Japanese are very finicky on the quality line. So unless and until we equip ourselves to cater to their expected standard, it is very difficult. So anyhow, we have a good opportunity on this bilateral agreements, and once that start being appreciated, so automatically the growth of the trade also would gain its momentum. I wish that to happen.
Sure, sir. Sir, most of the questions are now done. I hand over the call to Mr. Sanjeev Mohta.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Anything that you would want to add before we end the call?
So almost all the questions we have deliberated.
Yes.
I wish that this industry's growth need to happen on a speedier mode. That is the common wish of all of us. And I thank you for organizing this meet. And definitely we will look forward for the good prospects of all the stakeholders.
Absolutely, sir. And I think textile industry after a long time is looking very interesting. And as you said, Tirupur, you guys have created a fabulous, system where, it is actually one of the, such high exports coming from there, despite being smaller companies. I think is amazing. So wish you all the best, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.